We are live with the Short-Term Rental Pro podcast. Guys, I'm here with my man, Merritt, straight out of upstate New York. I was going to say rural New York earlier, but he corrected me. Syracuse, New York is a city, guys, for those wondering. But Merritt's someone who I've had a real privilege to grow a relationship with over the last few months. Actually met him in LA. Maybe we'll talk about kind of how we met on this episode, and it's been awesome that Merritt has actually joined our program, our community, and we're really looking forward to growing Merritt's business out and reaching new heights. So Merritt, thank you so much for coming today, and tell us about yourself and how you got into Airbnb and how you built your property management co-host business.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for the intro. Yeah, non-rural upstate New York, Syracuse, New York. Only well known for the SU basketball team, I guess. That's the one thing it's really known for. But anyways, yeah, my name is Merritt.
Jim Boeheim. Didn't he just retire?
Exactly. Fun fact, my wife is friends with his daughter. They hang out. They just hung out this week, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she wasn't aware of the connection. She doesn't really follow sports. And she was like, Boeheim? Who? What? I'm like, you're literally friends with the most famous person's daughter in Syracuse and you didn't know it. It's really funny. But anyways, yeah, I have 2 of my own Airbnbs, soon 3. So I own a duplex and I own a single family house. The single family actually started as an arbitrage deal. And then I closed on it almost exactly a year ago, actually. And I converted the duplex to a midterm model. I'm currently furnishing the upper floor right now. I just finished some renovations. And the single family is in like the top 10 properties in Syracuse area, which is great. Not a super saturated market, so it's not super impressive, but and then I also have a co-hosting property management company. We manage 6 with my 2, soon to be 3. And they're mostly in this area. And then I have one in the Thousand Islands. And there's one down in Deposit, New York, which is like a fly fishing right on the river, on the Delaware River, which is a fly fishing area. And I built that out pretty fast because I started in November. And so I went from my 2 properties to adding the 6 others in less than a year. And I'm currently hoping to scale and grow the operation.
So how did you initially find these co-host clients?
Yeah, so I decided almost a year ago in August last year that I was going to start posting on social media regularly. I had listened to a Bigger Pockets podcast where Brandon Turner was actually like a guest appearance, even though he used to be the host. And they were talking about social media and the power of social media marketing. And he basically gave some tools and just said, just consistency. So I made this commitment to posting 5 reels a week. And I just started kind of plugging away. And as everyone who does this knows, like at first you just kind of fumble through and you try to figure out what you're talking about and kind of who your target audience is. But I really had a passion for my at the time pretty new Airbnb. And so I just started talking about that. And so anyways, I shared to a lot of local Facebook groups, a lot of the real estate groups. And because of that, I had a lot of organic reach. And I ended up building these relationships where people would send me referrals. So a couple of properties came from referrals. So yeah, almost 100% through this like organic posting reels and posting content. And then a couple through referrals of networking in the area.
Okay. And I think, Merritt, for those of y'all watching, definitely check out his content, but you've definitely gotten comfortable behind the camera. I feel like that's you've evolved in your, I love how you're in the car a lot. That's your recording studio.
Yeah. So I have 4 kids. Yeah. So I have 4 kids and kids can be noisy. So the car is like a nice, quiet place that's always quiet. And I'm very good at fitting things in. I work a full-time job, obviously my own 2 properties, plus the side business. And I'm involved with my church. So I'm pretty busy. So
doing a lot.
Finding those moments to like fit things in is like really key. And I'm like, I'll fit it in when I can fit it in. A lot of people make excuses like I'm too busy. I can't do it. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this in the car. Like it works for me.
Consistency is everything. And I think, and I tell this to folk in our mastermind, especially those who are doing arbitrage or co-hosting, it's really don't just like, all right, I got to do 10 hours. I got to go all day and do reach outs to potential landlords or potential co-host clients. Make sure you're consistent. If you're going to do 20 minutes a day, do 20 minutes a day.
Right.
Whatever it may be, consistency is more important. Is the most important, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I realized like that I don't have the capacity right now to do long form, right? I wanted to do long form media. And I actually I was a tech director at a pretty large church before what I do now. So I was always in front of the camera, pretty comfortable in that regard, editing and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I realized that I couldn't really have the capacity to be consistent with long form right? So I was like, what can I be consistent with? I could do minute reels. I could do this, and I could figure out ways to edit. I could still edit in house and stuff, and it works. Obviously, growing is super slow, and I'm committed to
But
staying
you've
consistent. But
got clients. I mean,
yeah,
regardless of, I'm not, and this is an Airbnb podcast, not a social media podcast.
yeah,
But
right,
regardless of how much reach you've had and whatever,
yeah,
I mean, I'm watching, so I mean, I don't know, maybe that's
yeah,
something. But
yeah.
regardless
It's helped for the
of
marketing
that,
for
you've got
sure.
clients. You've got
Yes,
clients, bro.
exactly,
And
exactly. So at the end of the day, it's like successful, right? Because of that.
yeah, you've really kind of established yourself as the local domain expert in Syracuse,
Yeah.
in a medium-sized city. Not real city, but we've been working on, say, all right, Syracuse, like the types of properties you're getting
Hmm.
in the area are actually a lot of times more rural properties, more sparse, it kind of,
Yeah.
and you're thinking about trying to add a new location, a more densely populated area to your management portfolio. But walk us through kind of our conversations there. I know it's very recent in the development, but
Yep.
kind of what we've been progressing, guys. And I want to touch on this is Merritt's on his way. I see it. He's on his way. He's doing the right things. And I think this will be really good. So when we run this back a year, 2 years from now, it's wow, we looked back and we're like, it's crazy how far, we've come. And
Yeah.
that's really what I want today to be is like where Merritt is, how he's gone to where he is, and like how he's being proactive into the future to create the life he wants. And I hope that resonates with folk because that's not everybody. I don't only want to interview people who are like, oh, yeah, I've got a $2 million revenue business,
Right.
30 listings, or I own 46. And trust me, I interview them, or I've
Right.
sold $40 million worth of Airbnbs last year. That's great. It's good to have folk who started more recently and are doing the right things to put themselves in the position they want to be. But yeah, Merritt. So what are
Exactly.
you thinking? What are the initiatives for new growth?
Yeah. So, like you mentioned already, looking at new markets. And I think one of the things you said that really stood out to me is a market that is really saturated is great for a co hosting business, right? If you're investing, a saturated market can kind of be scary sometimes because you have to be top dog. You have to really like amenities galore, et cetera. But for a co hosting business, you actually want a super saturated market. Like you want a market that has tons of properties there. And we broke down like you're going to have more vendors, you're going to have like more pool maintenance people, you're going to have more like anyone you need to run a short-term rental successfully will kind of already be like in that market. So it'll be a lot easier. So yeah, so I think my focus now is marketing to another market that has a lot of properties in it. Like I said, like this area doesn't have too many properties, so it's like hard to scale. And I also want to like do bigger numbers and do bigger deals. So I need to go to a market where those things exist. So I'm working currently on building out a website, a landing page for a specific market. I'm building out a Google My Business to hit that market. I've also been doing some cold outreach to cleaners for referral fees. So I went on Turno and did like a fake bid, like a fake property, and I got a bunch of bids and I just started like building relationships. So nothing from that yet, but I'm just trying to think of creative ways to connect with people in that market. So we're looking at the Kissimmee and Orlando market. So I'm targeting in on that market. I'm looking for like creative ways to market there and to kind of build a home base in that second market so that I could scale a lot quicker.
Yeah, exactly. And that's Merritt and I have been talking about creative ways because he's never, I mean, have you even been to Kissimmee or Orlando Disney
I've been
area?
to Orlando like
Okay.
probably over 10 years ago. Yeah.
Got it. But, we're establishing a new operation in a new place,
Yeah.
building relationships. And for co hosting, a lot of times you get referrals is the
Yeah.
best way and the best way to get referrals is to tell people you'll literally pay them. If they
Yes.
bring you a co-host client or a property management client, you'll pay them $500, which if it's a property in Kissimmee, they're pretty consistent. They pull in probably 60, 70, 80, 100K a year. So if you're taking
Yep.
20% co-host fee
Yep.
on a 60K a year property, that's 12,000 or
Yep.
$1,000 a month. So you can
Yes.
afford to pay $500
Right.
to get a referral. So, a place that you aren't physically, you got to be creative. If you're
Yeah.
there, obviously you can reach out to people. You can say, hey,
Yeah.
let's meet up and have conversations. But if you're not there, you got to do it a different way. Another way I know folk do it, and we haven't touched on this yet, but actually JD, he guy who came to one of our meetups in New York, he has 50 co-hosts and he does paid ads. He does paid ads
Mm-hmm.
to get co-host clients. So
Like pay per click or Facebook or which one?
yeah, exactly. Pay per
Yeah.
click. Yeah, like we met or he came to our meetup, and then I DM'd him, and next thing I knew, I saw all of his ads were starting to pop up to me, which was pretty funny.
Well, it's nice. I mean, like,
Yeah,
it's cool because like that, like creating that landing page will create will get us ready for that, right? Like the Google My Business, the
exactly.
landing page, and it's like that much easier to just to do some pay-per-click ads on there. So
Yeah.
that's a great strategy. I'm also going to call realtors, which you mentioned. Do same thing, referral fee for realtors. And I was doing the referral fee thing too. I think I needed to just up the ante because before
Mhm.
you mentioned that I was offering 250 to cleaners. But yeah, maybe $500 is a little more incentivizing.
Absolutely. I mean, 500, that's kind of I'd say like the pretty standard rate that
Yeah.
from what I've seen. And I think it's great, honestly. And a great part, and maybe you can touch on what the value is and being in a mastermind and just having a
Mhm.
community and network of folk who are all doing the same things and who are talking to people and kind of leveling up together. But yeah, maybe touch on that. I guess what your experience has been. Well, hey, first of all, how did we meet? I think that's kind of a funny
Yeah.
story. I want to hear it from your perspective. And then
So yeah. So I knew about your content from my friend Connor Schwartz, and so I'd been following you on social. But we both went to the Wealthy Way Hollywood conference, Ryan Pineda, and it's kind of far from here, like this across the whole country. But I went solo. I didn't really know anyone out there, and it's kind of a crazy, yeah. So like we were like eating lunch, and you and I'm blanking.
Patrick.
Why am I Pat? You and
Patrick.
Patrick. There you go. You and Patrick walked by, and I had Facebooked Patrick. Hey, let's meet up because we were Facebook friends. And then I was like, hey, I think I recognize your face. And then I was like, oh, you're Jeremy, right? So it's kind of a cool coincidence. And then we had lunch together, and then we went clubbing together.
It was Merritt's birthday, and
Yeah,
I don't go clubbing.
yeah. Neither do
I
I.
used to go clubbing definitely, but when someone says, "Hey, it's my birthday," and I also have family in LA, and they're in hospitality, and when I say hospitality, they're in literally in clubbing. It's like what they do for work. So when he told me that it was his birthday, and my cousin said, "Hey, if you want to go to Sound nightclub, we can help you out," then I was like, "All right, looks like we're going clubbing." Merritt,
Yeah,
come
it was
on.
kind of a cool serendipitous event. Like I literally had never been clubbing, believe it or not.
Mhm.
I got married so young and started having kids right away. So it was like family time, family mode from the get go. But it was fun. It was a fun experience, and it was like kind of cool way to connect with you as well, and you and Blake, and get to know you guys a little bit. So
And then we went back to the hotel, and I think it was a pretty interesting experience. But
yes,
what
had a
happened from
nice chat
there?
with Rob Abasalo.
Yeah, Bill was at the hotel, so we had a good 1 a.m. conversation with him and his colleague, who blank on his name, but a really cool guy.
Yeah, super nice guy. He runs operations for Rob, right?
The real estate side of
Yeah.
things. But yeah, that so it
Yeah,
was a
it
fun.
was a memorable experience, and in the value of the mastermind, right? And you talked about the mastermind a little bit afterwards, and I've actually been like my whole like goal for this year was to level up, which is part of the reason I went to this conference, right? Like I wanted to go. My goal was to go to 2 conferences this year, and that was one of them. And so because of this kind of relationship, right? Like I never would have met you. We never would have gone out and hung out. I never would have known really about your mastermind or had that relationship built. And that networking is really why I've been trying to commit to that leveling up and networking. So I think for the same reason I went to the conference is the same reason I joined this mastermind, right? I'm wanting to hold myself to a higher standard. I'm wanting to be connected with major players, like people who are willing to put skin in the game and invest in themselves, invest in their education. And so joining this mastermind was that for me, right? It's like the ability to be connected with you and a lot of your experience that you have in this industry, but also for the other people in the cohort or whatever to build relationships and network. And I mean, I've only been in it for a little bit now, but it's been really great so far to just have that resource there.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Well, I think it was funny how our mastermind's like relatively. I mean, it's relatively new. I mean, I've been working with like select folks for a couple of years who, at this point, the folk I've been working with for 1 or 2 years are really doing well. So, but for most people, it's like kind of the first several months because I didn't really open it up to kind of folk I didn't immediately know until
Right.
relatively recently. But it's like starting to see folk are just getting listings and then they're using our design toolkits because everything that we use, like all the resources that we have developed that we use on a regular basis, our squad uses. Like everyone
Yeah.
uses, everyone gets access to. We don't hold anything back, even
Yeah.
all the little tips and tricks. Like we try to get everything in front of everyone. But
Yeah. That's
one of the most like visible signs of that is like our design toolkits. Not only a furniture list. People normally say furniture list, but we don't. We share a lot more than a furniture list. We
right.
share like literal, like this is a 6-bedroom house. This is like every room in the house, every single thing in that room that we ordered put together.
Yeah.
Everything flows seamlessly. And like we continuously do new houses.
Right.
So, our design, and I mean, I don't know, in your opinion, I think we went through it yesterday in our
Yeah.
call, kind of like the evolution of our design. And I looked back to my first property and I'm like, damn, yeah, this wasn't, I mean, not very good.
Yeah. No, yeah, totally. No, I love that too. I mean, there's so many resources like that are just really valuable.
Yeah, but it's cool to see. We had a design toolkit from 3 months ago that was literally like what we designed our properties that we launched earlier this year. And then we just had a new design toolkit built
Yeah.
like a month ago. And it's just funny to see people who launched their properties 3 months ago, like they look a certain way. And then the ones
Right.
who launched their property like last month, they look like everyone's looks similar based off when they're launching properties. And they're really good. I mean, and something maybe I would like your thoughts on this, just like the importance of design
Yeah,
nowadays and just
absolutely.
having really good listings.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. One of the properties that I took on to manage, it was going to potentially be an arbitrage deal, but I ended up just going co-hosting with it. Technically, I'm the host, so it's like more of a property management situation, but we went all out on the design. There was some furniture already there, but we really put a lot of detail into it and accent walls and stuff. And it's one of the best performing properties in my portfolio because we went so heavy on the design, right? And it's making me want to go back to my second listing, which is still kind of like some of the furniture was included in the sale kind of situation. And I'm like, you know what? It's time to go back and do like a whole revamp and refresh the pictures, refresh the design, because I see the value in how many more bookings you get and how much more the calendar is full. So
Yeah.
it's
And
pretty incredible.
it's actually funny. I'd say there's been a lot of great aspects of starting to work with other, and it was something I was like a little reluctant to do at first. And honestly, it took me, again, a couple of years of folks
Yeah.
really asking me. And then
Yep.
I finally was like, all right, I'll do it. But one of the cool things is just seeing kind of like you get more data points than just your own portfolio. I got a call with my Airbnb account manager yesterday. I have a monthly call. They go over my portfolio, my year over years, my little markets. But you don't really get exposure to the insights of 20, 30, 40,
Yeah.
40 different people's listings in different areas and
Yeah.
seeing how every folk did things differently. But I mean, I'll just give one example for us is like the folk we have in our program who have just launched a property and have used our designs and also gotten our feedback on them. They're crushing it, like
Right. Right.
insanely lucrative properties.
Right.
We have had a lesser number of examples where like someone kind of inherited
Yep.
like a furniture of a property.
Yes.
And I told him, like, I'm just gonna be honest, I'm not gonna tell you, oh, spend 30 grand, 20 or 15 grand on furniture. Like if it's furniture, but I'm gonna be honest, like
Yeah.
it
Doesn't
doesn't
pop.
look, and they're just like not doing that well. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, I mean, I recommend it. We obviously give the resources of how to design
Yes.
well. If you get something that someone else furnished, they're not thinking of how to do. We think a lot on how
Yes.
do we create what people are going to pay a premium for.
Right.
And there's a
Right.
reason why we have our toolkits and our resources like a certain
Right.
way. So if you don't use the resources, then so it's been good to
Yeah.
see like, all right, that's really validating that like,
Yeah. I would also add to that as a co-host, as like a newer co-host property manager for short-term rentals, I'm like learning to read what the investor or homeowner will respond to with my suggestions and
yeah,
my consultation, right? So
yep,
I've taken on a couple of properties where none of my none of my advice, none of my design pointers were taken on.
they're
And
not
at that
doing
point,
well.
they don't do well. Exactly. And at that point,
Yeah,
you feel a little powerless because as a co-host, right? It's like your cash isn't in the game, right? You're managing it for a service fee. And so it's a learning curve there because I want to work with folks who are willing and ready to crush it, right? We
yeah,
want their property to be the best in the market. And if they allow me to help formulate it in that way and to use the resources we have here in the mastermind and like really make the property like pop and go to the top of the charts in that area, then I want to take on those kind of clients, right? Versus the clients are like, I'm just going to leave that dusty old grandma's bed there and the quilts. And like, they're like not really wanting to put the money in to make it a winner. So that's a learning curve for me as I'm taking on co-hosting clients, is trying to read and understand the clients who are ready to like take it to the next level and the clients who aren't. But I'm like trying to stay sharp as I get new leads to make sure I'm working with clients who are like ready to crush it.
exactly. And I think that's something kind of you learn evolve. So, and to kind of compare that to my journey, When I started, I was heavy co-host. And I still am. I haven't lost co-host clients. I just
Right.
haven't expanded as much.
Yeah.
But I'm very, if I take a new client at
Yeah.
this point, like it has to be a situation because a lot of times I do more like vacation homes where my co-host portfolio where the homeowners want to go there a certain period. But if they're like, yeah, we're gonna go there a lot, or this is actually like our vacation home. I'm like, all right, well, then it's your vacation home or get someone else.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, it's not like we'll go maybe if the calendar is open, but really we
Yeah.
want this thing rented and making money. Like that's our first priority.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, all right, I'll work with you then. Like that's
Yeah, no, that's interesting because
just,
that's definitely another barrier to being a co-host, right? Is the folks who are like, yeah, I just want to rent it on the side when I'm not using it, right? And I'm like, you're not going to do very well. I mean, I had one lead come into me and it was like some kind of like timeshare situation where he had a certain number of weeks at the property a year and he wanted me to co-host it. It's like, there's no money in that for me. I'm sorry, like 12 weeks of the year, it's an Airbnb and the rest it's timeshare to some. You have to
yeah,
learn
it's
you have to learn when it's
complicated.
like
Like,
not a good fit, right? And when
yeah.
it's not going to be, I mean, obviously I'm a business, I'm trying to make money, right? And so, yeah, I'm also I want to lean more into the vacation homes and the more luxury short-term rental properties versus the mom and pop kind of thing. Although obviously I have some of those in my portfolio and they're doing great, but I'm kind of on that same line where I'm trying to be more selective and really qualify my leads a little bit better.
And I think one of the reasons I recommended the Kissimmee, which we looked over a pretty big swath of the country, was you have a lot of foreign investors who just park their
Mhm.
money in Disney.
Right.
Literally, they just that's what it's literally them just, hey, I have money. I want to invest. Like a lot of Canadian and Chinese investors, where in Canada you can't
Yeah.
make really any returns doing pretty much anything right now, which is honestly, I think a large reason there's a pretty overrepresentation of Canadian folk in our program. And honestly, the Canadians like crush it because they have if they want to invest, there's just no like in Canada, there's just no way. So they're motivated
Mhm.
definitely. And then also you have a lot of like Chinese folk who invest in Disney. And this is what I've heard.
Yeah.
And then I talk to people all the time who are doing in
Yeah.
different places. So it's not really, it's kind of a good situation for a co-host
Yeah.
because it's someone who's literally already not local. They're
Right.
already out of the country. So they're not going to be like, hey, Merritt, like, why are you in upstate New York today?
Yeah.
You're
Right.
not, like,
Right.
to them, you're in America.
Yeah, and my pitch too for the remote co-hosting thing is, and hopefully this is good. You can actually give me your feedback on this. But what I tell people, because I've had people all over the state, even, oh, how far are you? You're 3, 4 hours. But my pitch is, listen, my personal Airbnb is literally 3 blocks away, and I've stepped foot in it once last year because I
Yeah.
build such a good team and such good systems that I'm not the one that's going to be plunging the toilet because I have a great team in place. So that's kind of the pitch I give people anyways. Listen, I have one down the street from me. I don't physically go there. I'm good at managing and I'm good at building teams and I'm good at making sure that those teams have the quality that we desire. So that's kind of the pitch I've been using. I don't know your feedback, like how you
I
pitch the
got
remote
you,
thing.
bro. That's what I'm here for.
Let's
And
hear it.
this is based, and you should listen to. I think it actually came out yesterday, but my podcast with Bailey Kramer, who started with co-hosting, actually dropped out of school to build his co-host business, has I think at one point he was up to 20, 30 co-host listings. I think he shed it back, like kind of got rid of the clients he didn't like, and has been started buying with his co-host income. But what he says, because obviously he gets asked this all the time, he's just to be honest, you don't want if I was like, let's say, all right, you have a plumbing issue, the toilet's not working.
Right.
What am I gonna do? Regardless if I'm there or I'm on the beach somewhere. I mean, he doesn't say I'm on the beach somewhere, but regardless if I'm there or 300 miles away, I'm gonna call my plumber
Right.
to get out there
Exactly.
no
Exactly.
matter what. So it doesn't really matter. Like we have the people. I
Yes.
have the team. Like I have the
Yes.
teams, the systems, the operations in place.
Well, that's
Like
validating to hear that perspective.
exactly.
That's
So
kind of the perspective I take too.
yeah, what do you want me to do?
Right.
The electrical is not working. Okay. I'm gonna get an
Right.
electrician.
And
And
I think that premise like works across most of real estate too. Like the guys who start by flipping homes and they start flipping them themselves, right? They start like swinging the hammer, right? I'm a pretty handy guy actually, and I would be tempted to do that. But I know that I could hire someone better than me, right? I know that I can pay someone to do the job faster, solve problems quicker, and do the actual end result better than me when it comes to doing some of those operational tasks. So why would I do it myself, right? I want to build a business. I don't want to build like a handyman service or whatever. I want to build a legitimate business. So I think that same premise is like true across this, right? Like the skills I need are building systems and teams. That's the skills I need to bring to the table, right?
Yeah, and I think it's like interesting. Like, what are my skills? And I've done several home renovations. Like the ones we've bought have a lot of times been like heavier renovations, where I'm good at engineering, like a very inexpensive, pretty substantial home renovation. So if we have to do electrical, I'll figure out how to create an electrical system, figure out what the code is, how to trench and move the
Mm-hmm.
electrical from the panel whatever, all the way around like the property to wherever it needs to be. And to get someone with a ditch switch to do it, just to figure out how to do things inexpensively, but like little easy things.
Right.
I have no idea if it's like a flapper in the toilet, like the toilet's like a little messed up.
Let it
I don't
flood.
know, like the little flapper thingy and like the little jiggle stuff. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here.
I hate the flapper thing and the jiggle stuff, man. I hate it.
Yeah, and that's like easy stuff. You probably Google and figure out like what's wrong with that. But nah, that's not me. I can figure out the hard things, but like
Yeah.
easy little things, like nah, that's not my cup of tea. I'm
Plumbing
specialized
is
in
the
like
worst anyways.
yeah, like I'm specialized in like taking $100,000 renovation and making it like a 40,000 or fifty
That's
thousand
awesome.
dollar
Yeah.
renovation. That's what I try to do. And then
Right.
any little, I don't care if I'm paying $700 or $500 for something like small.
Right.
And that's just something that you want to be where's your time best spent? But I think
Yes, exactly.
that's what's important to think of is like for Merritt, what is the highest and best use of your time? How do you
Right.
leverage yourself? And I don't want to use like Pineda terminology, but
Right.
multiply. That's this whole
Yeah.
thing. Like how do you multiply yourself?
Yeah, that's really what I'm thinking about. And like at the moment, maybe it's just because leads have slowed down a little bit from my organic reach. And I'm kind of trying to tap away from my local market here. But that's really something I've been thinking about a lot is really getting more leads on my table that I can deal with. That's the next phase I want to get to. And basically like closing those deals with the 70K to 100K a year gross properties. Getting those deals on my table and getting those deals closed is really my highest value thing right now, right? At least from my perspective, like getting that going is really where I need to be, which I think is more valuable than let me go actually plunge a toilet.
Merritt, you're a man of many talents. He sent me over music. Unfortunately, I did not have the opportunity to listen to it, but Merritt makes music.
Tell me what you
Apparently
think.
he's good at plunging toilets, but not what you should be
Yeah,
doing any
like 8 out
longer.
of 10, 8 out of 10 toilet plunger.
Yeah. Your current portfolio, I mean, it's kind of where is it scattered around the
Yeah,
upstate New York, Syracuse area?
yeah. So I have most of them are in Syracuse proper. I have one that's in a suburb of Syracuse. That property does really well. We call it the Woodland Shire because it has this kind of live edge siding. The inside, they did a little bit Hobbit-esque decor, and that property does pretty well. And then I have two outside of the Syracuse area. I have one in the Thousand Islands, like I said, and then one in Deposit, New York, which is kind of like a fly fishing. It's a log cabin as well. But the majority of them are in Syracuse proper.
Got it. And that's probably logistically the ones in Syracuse proper are probably a lot easier than the ones in Thousand Islands and all over
Yeah.
the place.
Yeah. So like the two that are outside of my region, I've had the issue we talked about earlier, like vendor issues, right? Like I had
Yeah.
was it Memorial? Yeah, Memorial holiday weekend. The well was like kicking up dirt. And so we couldn't get a plumber out there. I called every plumber on Google. And then my cleaner ended up hooking me up with her handyman who went out there. And luckily the problem had already subsided because it was pretty much just like soil was kicked up because of a high water table. But you have those more rural properties and like finding a vendor in a pinch is really hard, right? Like it's a tiny community. So that's definitely a barrier I've been running into is like finding vendors at those two more rural properties. The city properties, I have multiple cleaning teams, multiple maintenance crews. I have a property manager here locally who is awesome. But she handles like a lot of the communication, a lot of the resolving issues. I have a guy who takes out the trash every week. Like the logistics of the city properties is a lot easier because it's kind of in a bigger city and I can build out vendor teams a lot easier than I can in the rural areas.
Yeah, I would say so when you start buying, I know you bought some, but we've
Mhm.
also talked about raising capital and
Yes.
doing bigger deals.
Yep.
So when you do co-host, kind of the having one property in one area that has its own cleaning team and its own handyman and its
Yeah.
own plumber is not it's not great. But
Right.
when you start buying, a lot of times I consider being rural like a moat. Being in a place with sparse
Right.
resources as something that means that TechFester, who's $100 million short-term rental fund, they're not going to go there. They're not
Right.
going to go there and launch 10 properties
Right.
because
Smaller
it's just,
ponds.
well, it's a smaller pond, but it's just like the logistics required
Yeah.
to get that operation up and running are a lot. But once you have that team, so we have properties on a lake in rural North Carolina where we own 4,
Yeah.
and we also manage 4 on that lake. That's also where I have a 7 boat rental business. We have a full-time crew.
Right.
Like, people, when we call folk, they come,
Yeah.
where they probably won't come for other people
Right.
because we have scale. We
Right.
have the
Exactly.
operations in place. So we can outperform everybody.
Right.
Whenever I see reviews on other properties there, they're like, we didn't have water for 3 days and they couldn't
Right.
get anyone to come out. We don't have that issue, knock on wood.
Yeah.
But
Right. No,
also
that's good.
Western
But
NC.
basically, like you have a little bit, you're not competing against the multi-million-dollar investor funds, basically, when you go more rural. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
You kind of
there's
invest
not
in,
gonna
in
be
an area where you
supply.
can dominate the market a little better.
Yeah, exactly, where you don't have
Right.
competition, or maybe you have competition, but it's not good competition.
Yes.
Like, you are gonna be the top performers in that market,
Yeah.
and you don't have to worry about 30 new
Yeah.
Airbnbs popping up tomorrow. I'd say
Right.
Western NC, same thing. We have a couple properties there. We have, between our properties, kind of a handyman who he loves working with us. Any issue, he'll come out and deal with it. So we
Yeah.
don't have that stress of not getting things resolved, because that's really what a lot. I mean,
Right.
you have issues in this game.
Right.
You have
Yeah. So one of the things though that I've been noticing, so on AirDNA, there are a couple top properties in Syracuse that did over 100K. They did 120 and one did like maybe 130. They were lofts downtown. So this market is a little bit like that actually, because if I put probably like another 20K into my single family property, it's already in the top 10. I know that it would crush it all the more. So like, I know that there is that capacity here because it's a smaller market and there's less big time investors.
Hey,
So I think
remember,
like,
Syracuse is a big city. That's what we went
yeah,
over this
big
earlier.
city,
Not a big city, a
not
medium,
rural.
not rural.
Mid-size metro. But yeah, I think even this market, if I did it right, like my first few properties, right? Like I kind of went budget on the furnishing and on the decor. Like I do think there's even room for that here. Although I definitely want to grow into some hotter markets, but knowing that there were properties in this area, I think those two are not operational anymore, but they were doing 110, 120, 130 a year gross is kind of a cool opportunity at hand.
Those were arbitrages. I mean, then
Yeah, and I
Sure.
actually had two loft deal. It was a lead. There was no parking spaces. There was a couple of things that went down, and then legitimately, I was about ready to sign, and the landlord raised the rent 20%, making it like a little too squeezy on the margin for me. So I ended up pulling out. But it was 2 lofts downtown that I was going to arbitrage. They were gorgeous too. But yeah, like that's exactly the thought I had. I saw those numbers and I said, let me find a loft downtown to rent.
yeah. How far are you from Buffalo?
Buffalo is 2.5, 3 hours, not far at all.
Got it. Because yeah, we had one mentee initially. He started back in I think October. Honestly, again, right when I kind of opened it up, and we got him. We found that there was a building downtown, not in Buffalo, but in, what's that town near Buffalo? That's
Rochester is between us.
Rochester. Okay,
Yep.
yeah, I was in Rochester.
Yeah, so
And we
Rochester's
were
like an hour and a half.
We were like, dang,
From-
well, I don't. Essentially, we found a building there that was kind of like a
Yep.
loft style building
Yeah.
where there were several Airbnbs and they seemed to do extremely well, especially relative to the rent rate. Turns out there's a convention center there. And he was like, oh, yeah, I know the property manager there. Like, he's in real estate there. And next thing, he was offered like several units in the building. And I was
Wow.
like, damn, bro, this is great. And then literally, like, he went on the tour, he got the approval.
Yeah.
Next day, he goes, oh, yeah, I'm under contract on a house in the town over to buy and turn it into an Airbnb. And I'm like, I mean, I'm obviously that's great.
Yeah.
Seems like you got a really good purchase price, all
Yep.
about it. And then he gets it up, he gets it ready to go in as an Airbnb. And like, we helped him kind of through the process. And then he goes, I got an offer to sell it. Like,
wow.
I'm going to sell it. I was just like,
That's
dude,
funny.
you are pulling me all over the damn place, bro.
Yeah.
And
Well, let's find some lofts like that in Syracuse or even Rochester. Honestly, I have a lot of contacts in Rochester. There's actually a larger
Yeah, I'll
Rochester.
send it to you. I mean, I'll find it and I can shoot that
Yeah,
building
and
to you.
I'm actually like I like did the LLC 0% interest credit card thing. So I'm like kind of ready to deploy that, whether it's an arbitrage deal or something else. But yeah, that's something I'm super interested in, especially like a loft that has a little like outdoor terrace or like patio, which one of the ones that was high performing had that. That would just crush it here or in Rochester.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just find the little, and that's like really what this game is like, finding properties in
Yeah.
areas and being like, what the heck? This
Yes.
thing is crushing it.
Exactly.
And you look up the purchase price or you look up the rent and you're like, damn, they're
Yeah,
not paying
exactly.
that much. That's really what it is. And I feel like people always go, oh, what's a good area? I mean, I'm not going to tell you Rochester
Yeah.
is a good area. I'm not going to tell you
Right.
Syracuse is a good area. I'm not going to tell you
Right.
anywhere.
But you can find the diamond in the rough basically if you do it right.
Yeah, or like you find the one specific part of the town
Yes.
that's a block away from a convention center, or I
Yeah.
mean, that's an example, or the houses, there's two houses in a market with a pool and they're both pulling in
Right.
130,
Yeah.
whereas everything else is pulling in 60. Like just random, you just find random
Yeah.
things. And it's, as an investor, it's your job. And that's where like short term rentals is just less, I say quote unquote, like efficient, like meaning that like it's not a perfect market. Like you can't just say, "Oh, a 4 bedroom here automatically is going to make this much."
Right.
There's a lot of like variables and dislocations, but because of that makes it where there's opportunity.
Right.
That's the beautiful thing about
Right.
it.
Finding that opportunity that no one else found. Like that's what is gonna make a good deal. Like actually your new house that you closed on is like a great example of that, right? Like you found a new opportunity in a market that's not super oversaturated that you're just gonna amenitize out the wazoo. And like finding that opportunity is kind of how you win, right?
And we'll see. And like then I'll be a data point for everybody because this is
Yeah.
a new strategy for me. And I obviously walked everyone through. This was my strategy at this time. This was like my thesis.
Yeah.
This was my thesis with this house here. This was like every time I bought has had some sort of, I think this is going to do this for this reason. It's not, honestly, normally it isn't like, hey, I have this perfect house right next
Right.
door that's doing this exact amount.
Right.
That's not how it is. So then I'll be, well, honestly, now see that again, another great reason why we have this mastermind is because I'm buying this like a month after Blake bought another one in the area and he's crushing it.
Right.
Like absolutely
Right.
crushing it. And like he took it to another level. Like he took a market where no one was doing anything. Well, actually,
Right.
he did it after other ones of our mentees had launched arbitrage properties in the area and they were crushing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's obviously we got to be, when you're in, we can tell you exactly where and what we're doing. But that's what that was good for me to see. Oh, wow,
Yeah.
he just took it to another level and damn, like he's doing really well. And I'm like,
Right.
all right, well, I'm going to take it to another level now and see what happens.
That's awesome.
He's going to
Yeah.
one up me.
We like kind of inspire each other and to find these little these gems that are waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. And it's just it's a bunch of folk who are trying to find these things, which obviously the more eyes and the more, data and the more software and all that
Yeah.
jazz you have, the more likelihood you're gonna find these again dislocations, like things where just don't
Yeah.
make sense. Essentially,
Right.
and that's really exciting. And yeah, what are you excited for yourself? And again, we're gonna do this again.
Yeah.
Hold our words. Today's June 23rd. I'm not exactly sure when this comes out, guys. This will actually be my last time doing it in this really crappy studio. This is what will be my old apartment in Greenwich Village, New York. I am moving in with my girlfriend. We're going to get a nicer space. So after this episode, whenever this airs, hopefully I have a really cool podcast studio set up. But regardless of that, Merritt, what's on the docket for you? What can folk look forward to and how do they watch your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say I got my handle there in my title. So if you follow me at Merritt Badge MGMT, that's TikTok, Instagram, etc. But yeah, I'm excited the co-hosting thing for me is a kind of a toolkit to get me to my end zone of investing, right? Like my end zone is using that money completely for savings and then investing in my own arbitrage and in my own purchases. So that's really what I'm excited about is really like creating this cash flow to further my journey of investing.
I will cut in, and I don't think I've
Sure.
told you this. And again, I try to share things I've seen. Co host businesses, you can actually sell. They were selling
Yeah.
for vacation rental manager businesses. They were selling during 2020, 2022, like 5, 6 times annual contracted revenue, which was like pretty nuts. It has moved down like a lot. It might be like 2 or 3 times right now. But
Wow.
still,
Right.
people tell me like arbitrage versus co-hosting. When I do any sort of investment, I want to think about what is like my potential exit plan.
Right.
So, Merritt, you want to build this business to parlay you into your own building out an awesome real estate portfolio.
Yeah.
Got it. And with co-hosting, like obviously you get the cash flow from it, but also at a certain point you get to 40, 50 properties. Again, they're in one place. That
Right.
definitely helps being in one place versus one here, one there, one there.
Right.
You can sell that. I mean, also there's a lot of folk trying to get an Airbnb right now
Right.
who want to build these businesses but know the amount of legwork it takes to build that client list.
Yeah.
But you get 50 properties. Let's say they're on average making 50K a year. So that's $10,000 a piece for the property manager times 10,000 times 50. That's what, 500 grand?
Yeah. Exactly.
Even if you sell that at 3 times revenue, that's 1.5 mil,
Exactly.
and then you can take that 1.5 mil leveraging DSCR loans or different
Right.
financing. You can leverage that up probably to 4 million,
Yeah.
4 million, $5 million worth of real estate.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's the cash flow, but it's also the equity and the ownership of the business.
It's a business, and I compare it to
Right.
arbitrage too, because you just can't sell an arbitrage business. I
Yeah.
mean, you might
People
have
trying to sell the
people.
contracts.
It's just maybe you could like scheme someone and it
I've
might
seen
work
them.
out. Yeah,
I've seen
well,
them try.
yeah, maybe you can. Yeah, you can transfer. You can put on like a small scale with
Yeah.
one landlord. Maybe they'll just kind of look the other way. But
Yeah.
if you have 100 unit portfolio
Yeah.
and 25 listings in a building, and then what? You're buying out 3 months left on a lease.
Yes. Exactly.
How
A
does the
lot more
math on
risk.
how does the math on that work?
Yeah.
Whereas like co-hosting, you have a predictable churn. Let's say you have 50 clients, you can expect to lose 5 of them, but you can
Right.
also expect to pick up 5.
Right.
So it's like you have predictable numbers. Whereas with arbitrage, yeah, it's just really hard to underwrite one of those acquisitions. So it's again, I like to think about what's my exit plan for my
Yeah.
arbitrage properties. Like it's just cash flow them
Right.
and continue to resign. I don't have any expectation
Right.
that one day I'm going to sell them. I mean, maybe I could like on a one-on-one basis, but I'm discounting that where like co-hosting really like you can
Yeah.
realistically have an exit plan. So maybe
Yeah,
that's in the book.
actually, I wasn't even awakened to that till actually when we were hanging with you and Patrick, who like
You bought
acquired,
one.
he bought a 20 unit on creative finance. He bought a 20 unit co-hosting business. I think it was a 20, roughly give or take.
Yeah,
But
something
like,
like that. Yeah.
I opened my eyes to this idea that, yeah,
I was like,
this is a great,
why? I was like, why'd you buy it?
bought a headache. No, I'm just kidding. But it's one of those
I was like,
deals
why don't
where
you just
like,
make a 20 unit co-hosting business? He was like, I
right,
don't know, I'm
right.
having trouble. It's just easier to buy one. I'm like, all right, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably faster scale. But it's kind of one of those deals where like, at least opened my eyes to this idea that it's also this business that could be sold. I totally agree with you there. That's pretty exciting to me.
Exactly. So it's all good stuff. So yeah, what can we be on the look? You investing, and where can they find or follow you?
Yeah. So at Merritt Badge MGMT, that's my handle for everything: Instagram, TikTok, etc. I'd love to chat with anybody. I'd love to help folks out with the knowledge I have already, and also network with folks who are like way above me and doing awesome stuff.
And
So
I should have asked this first, but what's your pro tip?
my pro tip, my pro tip is, let's see. Oh, geez, caught me off guard with this one.
Could be the networking one. I mean, they've been pretty adamant.
Yeah. No, I would say my pro tip is find the person for your team that's really going to be like the point person. So like my local property manager, her name is Brenda. She has really allowed me to scale and to build out a great business. And like finding that person who you really trust to do that has been huge because it's allowed me to focus on growing and on acquisitions. And yeah, so find your point acquisition person who's really going to take the lead on that. I think that's
So you're like ops manager.
exactly.
Yeah, and honestly, and this is something we've actually been discussing internally, Blake and I about our portfolios because we have virtual assistants
Yeah.
who, in a way, are like somewhat ops managers, but we definitely have to get pulled into things
Yep.
more. And we do have our local crews who also, in a way, are ops managers. but really just having one dedicated,
Yep.
like American probably kind of ops manager for the entire portfolio
Yep.
where, they can talk to a plumber, electrician, handyman better than someone in the Philippines can.
Right.
But
Right. Totally. And also, not to mention, it creates one more buffer point where you're like working on your business, not in it. Right. Where like
exactly.
the VAs then reach out to the ops manager, right? Instead of reaching out to you directly. And then they solve the problem. You don't even hear about it unless it's like the house is on fire.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. Exactly. And because I do feel like, guys, I will admit this, I'm $1 million minimum, like $1 million revenue business, all that good stuff, great listings. I check like a lot. I check my stuff.
Yeah.
I check my, I check to make sure our VAs are responding to people. I
Yep.
check to
Yep.
make sure how quickly they're responding to them, that they're answering and saying the right things, like stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't want to be checking over your guys' work anywhere
Right.
anymore. So having someone who's like checking over their work, it just creates, me. I'm talking to people all day. I'm working on the software that we have built out, BNBCalc, making that better, reaching more people. I'm creating more content,
Yep.
and that's where I'm focused on that creativity. And
Right.
then
And
having
ideally,
someone,
like the ops manager is like also auditing your systems, right? Hey, is
yeah,
this our best system? Is this the best software solution right now? Like, how can we improve or utilize this software solution in a better way? Like, they're the person doing that so that you can focus kind of on the bigger picture of things.
exactly. And like to be frank, like I don't look when we initially built out we use Monday.com and we use
Yep.
Notion some for our
CRM.
not our CRM, but our resources where all of our like or SOPs, like standard operating
Yep.
procedures. I don't even look in it anymore. Like, which
Right.
then I'm like, I should have someone who's literally just making sure that everything is organized and documented. Like when our VA says something, I'm like, why the heck did you say that? What's our notes on that? And they send me something. I'm like, who? That's wrong. And I don't like that being the case where I'm catching it on like
Yeah.
the gets message where it's wrong info. And
Yeah.
yes, I could go in myself and I could review
Yeah.
everything in our SOPs and make sure everything is right. I totally could do that, but I'm at the point where I don't want
Right.
to.
Yeah.
And I don't,
Yeah. I'm going to say, I really wasn't aware that this was an interview, but I'm glad to be here.
yeah, yeah. All
I'm
right,
just kidding.
Merritt. Wow. Looks like we're talking. Yeah. Wow. This is a mastermind, baby. This is
So,
networking.
here's my resume. No,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm thinking also it'd be like not this is talk I had with Blake yesterday, but there's a lot of like young folk out there who are trying to get into the game on things and like
yeah.
want to provide their expertise or sorry, their time and kind of in
Yeah.
return get like that mentorship.
Yep.
And that's like for the calculator, we had a kind of like an intern who reached out and was like, I'm a
Yeah.
user. I would love to kind of provide value. And
That's
he
cool.
so I'm definitely some people listen to this, young hustlers, like you want to provide folk like Merritt or myself value. We like value and we're guys where we like to help other people out too. So
Yeah.
if y'all are listening, feel free to reach out. Feel free to reach out either to either of us or any last words or anything you want to share with.
Yeah, I love that what you ended on there is I have a lot of people who approach me, "Hey, I want to get involved. I want to," but they don't do that value thing, right? Where they're like, "Hey, let me provide value. Like, how can I help your operation go well?" I would say that's a big one, right? Like, if you're wanting to network and get in the game, offer someone some level of value and like maybe even do a month of something for free. Like just give that value so that you become indispensable, right? Like and then at that point, you will gain the knowledge, you will gain the networking you need, you'll be connected with the folks you need to be connected with. And so, yeah, if you're brand new and interested and looking to get in the game, like I definitely suggest doing that. And then obviously my other pro tip is put yourself out on social media. Don't be afraid. Like you're going to say some stupid things. You might say something wrong. Your editing might be crappy, but just put yourself out there. Doing that alone is going to be huge and it's going to build a lot of trust. That's the thing is when people start talking to me, they already trust me. I've like never met them, but they see my face, right? Like they see my mustache, they see my glasses. And so they trust me already when they talk to me. And I'm like, I don't even know you, but you trust me. Put yourself on social media, put yourself out there. It's going to be huge for your business. So that's my other free pro tip for you.
Awesome, guys. Well, hope y'all got some value from us today and definitely stay tuned. We're going to have Merritt back and I'm super stoked for that. Again, we timestamped today. So
Yeah,
we'll
it'll be
know
10x. It'll be 10x.
exactly. If it's not, then I don't know. We'll
I'm
maybe
fired.
be back at the club again, drowning our sorrows.
Morning.
We'll be crying. Totally kidding. But guys, stay tuned. Stay tuned for this episode, future episodes. And as always, share, comment. Love having you guys. And yeah, have a great weekend, everybody.